Alright, this is going to be the review sheet number 29 quick video, so hopefully this will help you out. This is all pretty current stuff on here for the most part, I think. This one is specifically, this is going to be chapter 10, so I'll just put 10, dang it, a little bit too wide there. Chapter 10, LT number 2. So if you go back to your chapter 10 notes, the one we're doing right now, and you check out Learning Target 2, you'll learn what the formula is. Now, first thing you have to do is identify what shape that is. Okay. Now, I'm not going to tell you what the formula is because, as I just stated, you can go figure that out yourself. It's right in your notes. You should know it, but regardless, it's right in your notes. So that'll be the formula. Now, the areas, I'm not going to show you how to find the area, but if you know the formula, which is in your notes, then you'll be able to find the area. The only thing I'm going to help you with is this is kind of a strange looking triangle. So I'm going to help you identify the base and the height of this triangle. Now, first of all, whenever you're trying to figure out where the base and the height is, you're always going to start by trying to identify where that right angle is. That's very key in this. So you've got to figure out where the right angle is. Now, where people get confused is they say, well, okay, I'm confused because, well, then what do I count all of these? Do I count from there to there? Like, is that representing a length, or is something else representing a length? So that's where the confusion kind of comes in. But what you're saying is this right here is one side. You're calling that the base, and then you're calling this the height, okay? Because it's meeting at a right angle. Let me redraw that. Okay, so this is going to be your base. This distance here is going to be your height. Now all you're going to have to do is figure out how many squares long it is here, how many squares it is long there, and then take those two dimensions and plug it into your formula, okay, which you can find in your Learning Target 2 notes. One more thing, whenever you're finding area, there's something special that needs to happen to your units. Okay, now because this doesn't have inches, meters, feet, anything like that, we are just going to be like, we're calling these units. This is 1 unit, 1 unit, 1 unit, 1 unit. Okay, so they're units. You've got to remember there's something real special when you're doing area that goes on those units. So I'm not going to tell you what that is, but you have to have it in order to get it correct. Okay, here, we've done one of these, the last 2 or 3 review sheets here, so if you need to look back to your previous review sheets, that's what I would do. This is chapter 6. I would encourage you to do 2 proportions here. Okay, that would probably be the work that I would require. Okay, there is another way to do this without proportions, and I'm fine with you doing that way as well. Sorry about that phone ringing. So you could do 2 proportions here, one representing tax, one representing tip. There is another way you could do it without the proportion, and I'm fine with that method as long as you know what method that is. So there are 2 methods. This is the method that I would want you to probably use, though. It seems to be the one you guys use the most. Okay, here I'm definitely going to need to see a proportion. Absolutely going to need to see a proportion here. No doubt on that one. Okay, right here is some information. Hopefully you'll realize that that is fake information, and this is going to be your real information. It says show proportion. Some people are asking me if they need to do unit rate on this one. No, you do not need to do unit rate. So you can just set up your proportion and cross multiply and divide on that one. Okay? GCF and LCM, this is chapter 1. So I had some people asking me how to do this. They must have forgotten since the last time we covered this. So if you're somebody that did forget, look back to those notes. I would definitely need to see work here. Okay? Look back to your chapter 1, and you'll see I don't remember what the learning target is, but there's one that says I can find the GCF and I can find the LCM. If you look back at those, you will figure it out. It'll come back to you really quickly. Also, this definition right here, it's actually in your chapter 1 notes as well. Okay? So look back there. Here's a PEMDAS question here. You just need to simplify it. You're going to have to show all your steps, so I don't know if there's enough room here. You may have to do that on page 2. That's what I had to do on my answer key, so you may have to do it on page 2 as well. I'm looking here at how many lines. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like 6 lines is how many you should have. At least 6. You could have a 7th line or more if you do things differently, but this one here, you're just going to have to remember there is a property that states whenever a number is on the outside of a parentheses, you're allowed to break the PEMDAS rules and do that distributive property. Okay? Remember, the distributive means multiply. Okay? And then once you get it down here, then you're going to have to simplify it by combining like terms. Okay? This is right here. This is going to be your Chapter 7 notes. So look back to, and it's learning target number 5 and 6. That's going to be your. That's going to help you with this one if you need any help. This learning target was, we did it a while back. I mean, we've been doing it all year. I don't think you need to know the learning target. Okay. This question. This is a histogram, so you can see you have your intervals down here on the x-axis. Okay. My copy's a little darker than yours. I think yours might be a little bit hard to read if I remember right. Now, people were getting confused because they said they see this word students and it's throwing them off a bit because they're saying, okay, well, what age does students represent? Like, are you saying like high school students, middle school? What are you saying? Well, don't even worry about this. Matter of fact, just replace it with the word people. I wish we would have done that actually too, because really, I mean, technically, this bar right here, that could be 5, 6-month-old kids or 5 1-year-olds, and technically 1-year-olds aren't students. Okay, so don't worry about that. I just want to know how many people went to this library total, whether they were from 1 month old or 1 day old all the way to 59 years old. Okay, so that's just counting there. Okay. Okay, this question here now, your copy is a lot better than mine, so what I went ahead and did is I redrew it over here. And really what I was trying to get you to see here is that this is a polygon of some kind, okay? And I'm sure there's an area formula out there for this, but this is one where you're actually going to have to do something called decomposing. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and I'm going to imagine getting my scissors out, and I'm going to cut it straight down right there. I'm going to cut it. So hopefully you can realize what I've created. I've now created a rectangle, and I've created a triangle and a triangle. Okay? Now, what's cool is you know how to find the area of a rectangle. You know how to find the area of a triangle. Okay? You know those. This is learning target number 1 of chapter 10. This would be learning target number 2, like I said, up at the top there on number 1. So all you have to do now is you're going to have to count it out. I mean, it's not really all that hard, to be honest. It's just really hard to see on my copy. But if you're trying to figure out the base and the height of this rectangle, well, that's easy. This is the base. Obviously, this is going to be the height. So you're just going to have to count how many squares long it is here and how tall it is there. And then that's going to be base times height, and that'll give you what you need to know right there. Okay, so that'll give you the area inside. Now, the area formula for a triangle, which again I'm not going to give you because I think you all are capable of going and looking it up in your learning target 2 notes. The big deal here is though is there is no right angle in that, so you gotta basically draw a straight line going down. So then this right here is representing your base of the triangle. This is representing your height. So again, it's all about just counting the squares. Okay, so yours are really easy to read. This would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means you know that the base of that triangle is 4. You know the height is 1, 2. And then find the area of that triangle. This triangle is going to have the exact same area. Once you find the area of this, the area of this, and the area of this, you're just going to add them together. And that's going to give you your area. Do not forget about your units. Remember, since it's area, we're talking about a special type of units. Okay, you got to do something to the units. Okay, this is a trapezoid. Well, I just gave you the answer to that one, I guess. Didn't even think about it. Okay, but I hope you all know that's a trapezoid because as you guys are well aware at this point, you know that trapezoids are a quadrilateral. So that means they have 4 sides. Trapezoids are a quadrilateral that has 4 sides. Okay, but what makes a trapezoid is that it has one set of parallel sides. So that means there are only 2 sides and they're parallel. The other 2 are not parallel. Whereas a parallelogram, a rectangle, a square, a rhombus, all those, when you draw those, that's not very good, but you get the point. This is parallel to this, but then this is also parallel to this. Okay, so that's the difference between the 2, and you need to know that. Okay, traps only have 1 set of parallel sides, and parallelograms have 2 sets. Okay, the formula for finding the area of a trapezoid is area equals 1/2 of the height times base 1 plus base 2. Now, how I really want you to remember that is you're going to remember it as 1/2 times the height times, that means times right there, times the sum of the bases. Times the sum of the bases, because you're adding the two bases together. So, obviously, it's pretty easy because I got it all laid out here for you. Here's my right angle. The height is going to be your distance between the bases, so that's going to be, I'll do this in reds to help you kind of see it. That's going to be your height, so right there is your height. You just got to count how many squares tall it is. Okay, 1/2 is going to stay the same. Okay, so I'm not going to put anything there because I want you to figure it out. And then when you're doing the sum of the bases, well, what it says right here, base 1, so we got to figure out this distance right here. I'll do it in a little different color, do it in pink, so you can see it. This right here is your base 1, so that's base 1, the distance of that. Base 2 is the other distance. This side here, this is your base 2 here. Okay, so once you're there, now you can just figure that answer out. It's pretty easy. You'll be able to you can follow PEMDAS and do it. Okay, and then this right here, this question right here, I'm not going to tell you because when you watch the learning target number 3 video, the whole first part of the video is describing why we divide by 2 in the formula. So just you'll know the answer after you watch this video. And if you need to go back and take a look at that part, do it. Okay. Here, once again, this is a percent bar, so it might throw you off a little bit. We're used to doing one that looked like this, and you said, okay, I see 25%, so that meant I need to cut this thing into 25% sections, so you would have done it like this. And then you would have said, okay, the whole strip represents 100%. It also represents some sort of total. And then you'd have to go up and say, do I know the total? Well, yeah, I do. I know that that's my total. So then you would be reminded that the whole goal is to figure out what 1 is. So you've got to do something to 148 to figure out how much would go into each of these sections. The only difference up here with this percent diagram, it's a little different. It doesn't break it into even. I mean, they are evenly sized, but it shows it building on itself. So this is 25%, so it's like filling it up. It's like that. Instead of saying that's 25 and that's 25, you're saying together they make 50, 75. Okay, so I don't think there'll be any issues. You can always check it with a proportion. You know the percent. You obviously know the whole. You're looking for the part. Okay. All right, number 10. We had one just like on last week's review sheet. By the way, this was chapter 6, learning target number, I think 4. But you can look back, you'll see the one that talks about strip diagrams. Okay, we had one just like this on last week's review sheet, so I'm not going to help you because I gave you the answer on last week's review sheet, number 28. Okay, so if you look back to that one, it was one just like this, very simple, shouldn't have had any issues at all. Okay, first one on the page 2, you see a figure here. That might be a square, but we're going to call it a rectangle until we know something specific about it. This would be learning target number 1 because it is a parallelogram for sure. This part here is where we get into learning target number 6 and 7. So we haven't really gotten to it yet, but we've done coordinates. I mean, you guys all know when you're labeling coordinates, if I were to take it this point, that's the origin, and say I wanted to name that point right there, so let's call that A, point A. Remember, we're going to go, Superman's going to run before he flies, or remember my example was you're going to walk to the elevator, then you're going to go either up or down. Okay, so when you're writing point A here, I'll do point A right there, which has nothing to do with this problem, but we'll just practice plotting. You know that you're going to go over to 6, so that's your x value because this is the x-axis, and then you're going to go up to 9. So that means that point A right there is 6, 9. Okay, so you got to label these 4 points right here, x, y, or w, x, y, z, or I'm sorry, v, w, x, y. You have to tell me what coordinates all of those are, and then once you're done with that, you're going to then tell me what the area of that figure is. So you're going to have to figure out the base and the height. You know that's a right angle. These are all right angles, so you know it's a rectangle at the very least. It could be a square. I'm not going to say whether it is or not. You're going to have to go through and count and figure that out. Don't forget about your units. Labels. I will count it wrong if you don't have appropriate labels on here. Okay, remember, if it doesn't have inches, feet, meters, then we just call it units. But remember, area is something special on the units. Okay, look in your notes if you're not sure. Chapter 10. Okay, so this question right here, this is actually a future question, meaning not like LCM, but like it's chapter 12. So we'll be covering this stuff here in a few weeks. Okay, which measure of the toy chest should he use to determine how much paint to buy? Okay, so would he just need to figure out the height of this box? We need to figure out the perimeter of the box. We need to figure out the surface area or the volume. Well, think about it. If he's going to paint this toy chest, wouldn't you agree that he's going to do this? He's going to paint that side. He's going to paint that side. He's going to paint the top. He's going to paint this side over here. He's going to paint the underneath. He's going to paint the back. He's going to paint those 6 sides. So I'm going to leave you with that to see if you can figure out which one of these would be represented by painting all the different sides. Okay? This question right here, we've had this one in the past. It's a little bit confusing, so I always like to show it like this. Imagine I was standing in front of the class, and I said, how many people in here have one cousin? 7 people raised their hands. So really, if I was jotting this down, it would look like this. 4, yeah, that's 7. There's my 7 students that had one cousin. Then I said, okay, how many people had 2 cousins? 5 people raised their hand. Done. How many people have 3 cousins? Oh, I got 7 again. 3, 3, 3, 3. 3. Okay, how many people had 4 cousins? 4 people raised their hand. Off to start my list down here. But it's carrying on from that. I just had a room. 4 people had 4 cousins. I'm done with that one. How many people have 5 cousins? 4 people raised their hand. Okay, I hope you see what I'm getting at here. How many people had 6 cousins? 2 people raised their hand. So if you're trying to figure out the mode, well, I'm not going to tell you what the mode is. I think we've had mode, mean, median, and mode questions on every single review sheet this year, I bet. Or at least close to every one of them. Go back and check and see, figure out what mode is based on what you thought it was every week we've had review sheets. Or you can always look it up. Okay? But from this is very confusing. This table is very confusing. When they're listed out like this question becomes a lot easier. All right. This question is going to be worth 3 points when we grade it. Okay. How many runners ran the race? I don't think there's any issue there. That question is basically the same question as on the front. Remember this question here, how many students, that when we changed to people? That's the same question as that one. So all you're trying to figure out is, well, I just got to count, basically. That's all I'm doing. Okay? So that's all you have to do is count. Where this question gets really confusing is on the next 2. Okay? Now, I'm not sure how much I want to help you on this. Who won the race? And everybody's like, what? They don't understand what the question's asking. And I've been saying, who won the race? And they say, I don't know who won the race. And I say, there you go. That's the answer. Okay? So I'm going to leave it at that. But don't overthink these 2 here. These 2. Because I'm kind of trying to trick you a little bit. Okay? So just go with that. Think about it. See if that helps you. But don't overthink it. Okay? Let's go ahead and go to the next page. All right. These 2 questions here. You must have proportions on these 2. If you don't have proportions, they're wrong. Okay, I must see a proportion. It's not even an option not to have one. You have to have a proportion on both these. And since it's the percents, you're going to be doing the percent proportion. Okay. And then finally this last one, which is a pretty difficult question. This is called a net. This is called a net. And what a net is when you take a 3D object and basically you flatten it out. Okay? Now, what you have to do on this, and it's very hard for some of you. I struggle with this even to this day. I struggle with this a little bit. You got to fold this thing up. You've got to be able to fold it in a manner that it would make it become a prism. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of advice that can help you. Imagine that piece right there was the bottom of the prism. Okay, now from there, imagine folding this up, and then this up. Think about where all those pieces would go, and then you try to figure out which one of these would fold together to make one of these, or which one of these would flatten out to make that. Okay, I think you guys will figure it out if you really think about it. But don't just guess and have me check. Actually think about it. See if you can visualize it. It's not easy. It's difficult, especially for sixth graders. Like I said, I've been doing it a long time, and I struggle with visualizing these at times. I think just some people can visualize it in their minds better than others. Okay. Let me see here. Oh, and then finally you have to go down below. You have to figure out the surface area. Now, remember, surface area is when you find the area of all the sides. So there's a couple different ways you can do this question. The way that I've taught you to do it is, that's a rectangular prism, so you know it has a front, you know it has a back. This is what we did before break. It has a top, it has a bottom. It has a right side, it has a left side. All you have to do is go through here and find the area of all these sides. That's how you find the surface area. Then all you got to do is add all of them together. Okay? Add the area of each side together. The reason that a lot of you are going to miss part B is because of one very tricky thing, and it's right there. Please take special notice of that right there. What that's saying is one of those squares is not 1 by 1, which is what everybody thinks. And then they say, okay, well then it's 1 foot squared. That's what one of those is. No. Every one of those squares, as you can see there, is 5 feet by 5 feet. Okay? That's all I'm going to help you. But just be real careful as you go through here and try to find the area, the amount of total surface area there. Just remember that right there. It's very important. Okay? I want to see what you guys can do on that. All right? I hope this helped.